Well, good morning, everyone. Thomas Montgomery here. We get together most weekday mornings at this time, 8 o'clock Central, with our distribution partners, talk about strategies, tips, techniques, share success stories, and support each of you. We're going to go back and revisit the comparison sheet that we released earlier this week. Hopefully, all of you have a copy of this, an editable version of this. If you don't, certainly reach out to us so we can get that to you. I think before we get started about how to use this and sharing some success stories of how some of you have used it, it's important to understand there's a problem. And the problem is a lot of small business owners want and need funding, but they typically want an instant fix. They don't really want to go through a process, and many of them don't want financial literacy. Most of them just want a solution to their problem. So it takes a bit of discipline and effort to connect the dots for them. So sure, you deserve funding to start or grow a business. No one argues that. And we can assist you, but we're going to have a fundable business. It's untrue. It's unrealistic. It's it's impossible to go get large amounts of business funding if the business isn't quote unquote fundable. So this sheet, this resource, which again, it's in Word, so each of you should have an editable version. If not, let us know and we'll get it to you, is a good way to help connect the dots. When we introduced this earlier this week, the training we did was more of how you might use it. And so it was more of a role play session. Today, we'll look at it more from your perspective rather than the client's perspective. So let me zoom in a bit so we can see it more closely. So the concept here is to help the prospective client, the prospective participant, understand what it takes to have a fundable business, which I'll go through, what we deliver to help them have a fundable business, and probably come to a conclusion while there's these other columns to put other options, there really aren't any other options that offer what you and I can do for them. As a branch office, what we call the opportunity fund, you're always going out under your branding, not under ours. So of course you could put your logo up here. It's designed for you to do that. And you would change the call to action information here at the bottom so it's your information. So again, that's why this was developed in an editable Microsoft Word format so you can change it. So you should have this. If you don't have it, email us and we'll get it to you. Recommend putting your logo in the top left-hand corner and changing the bottom. So if you were to have a prospect that you wanted to use this as a guide for your conversation, because I'm a big believer that if you provide something that people can look at while you're speaking with them, it'll be more effective. Now, we've talked a lot about doing the 10 mistakes PowerPoint, and that's very good. And you can do that live or Zoom. But that's a bit of an event, right? And not all interactions with a prospect are suitable for some sort of educational event. But this works well. So you could be with them and hand it to them. You could email it to them. You could text it to them after you've made your changes. But I definitely would want the client or the prospective client to have this in front of them while you're visiting with them. Make sense? So let's talk more about the construct of why it's built this way and how you can use this to your advantage to educate prospects. So along the left-hand side here is kind of a narrative. So let's go through it and talk about why these words are here and how you can use this. So we're from the beginning, our message is, do you need money to start or grow a business? Because if their answer is no, then nothing else really matters on this page. I'm like probably a lot of you. You get solicitations. We get calls from lenders and loan brokers daily wanting us to go borrow money. We don't need to borrow money. We operate profitably, so we don't need to borrow money. But this is the question that they tend to ask, but they'll put it more creatively, how much money could you use? And my answer is zero. I don't want to borrow any money. I want us to continue to grow through earned income. But in terms of working with prospects, this is the question to start with. And it's kind of the title of at the top of the page, and then it's reiterated over here, because you want them to acknowledge, yes, I need money to start or grow a business. Because again, if they don't say yes, you're wasting your time on the wrong prospect, right? You need to move on. Now, they might say yes, but it depends on the specifics, and that's fair enough. But if they don't need funding, you don't have a prospect. So then we explain that this comparison grid provides you a resource to compare the options. So the mindset of this paragraph in this page is to help them compare different ways to get funding. So we want them to stop thinking, oh, I can't get funding. It's impossible. No, it's not impossible. You can get funding for your business. And there's a variety of resources available. We have one of them, but there's others. Now, why don't we fill in what those others are? Because we're going to use that to our advantage. We're going to ask them, as we get a little deeper in the conversation, what are the other resources you're looking at to help you get at least $250,000 in the next 30 to 60 days? Chances are they're going to say nothing. Or if they say, oh yeah, I'm talking to another group, like we have a bunch of you on today, but Bevan's on. Bevan's one of our top producers, and so we'll pick on Bevan for a second. So let's say that the prospect tells Bevan, yeah, I'm talking to some other people. So Bevan would say, great, let's go through and compare how our grant program works compared to that other resource. But I'll get to that in a moment. But that's where we would fill in these lines. What other options are they looking at? I think many of the people that you're talking to don't have a whole lot else in position. Now, they might say, well, why would I need to work with you, Bevan? I could just go to the bank. And that's right. If you have a fundable business, I'm fucking wasting your time right now. You need to go down to the bank, apply, get your wire, and move on. You don't need us. You don't need the grant. But what do you and I know? That's not where most small businesses are. Most small businesses are not fundable. They need assistance. And that's what you and I provide. So that's the concept of providing this comparison grid. I forget who it was. Let me look through the list. Who was that? I think it was Larry maybe said, well, why don't we just cut these other cut these other columns out? Why do we even need that? Well, because then it becomes a marketing flyer about what we do. Instead, we're trying to use it as more of a comparison document of, let's look at different elements and we'll show what our program provides, and then we can compare that to other options you're looking at. Too much detail, I know, but I'll just mention this. One of my first jobs out of graduate school was with Deloitte and Touche, and I worked in their ABC department. Actuary, benefits, and compensation. So my job, well, the team I worked on, we built out benefit plans for large self-insured employers. So one of my largest clients was the state of Florida. So the state, all the state employees, are employees of the state of Florida, and we help develop their benefit plans and manage that. The point I made is, each year we would go out for quotes. So we would talk to United Healthcare and Cigna and Blue Cross and Aetna and do a comparison to see which was best for the state of Florida. So this is kind of built off that concept. Let's help the client make an educated decision of which resource is best for them to solve this problem. And you know what? If we don't have the best resource for them, that's okay. We want what's best for the client. But I don't think that there's anything even close. Okay, let's get back to the narrative. Trying to get rid of this highlighting, wherever it's. All right, well, I guess we're stuck with highlighting all over where I don't need it. But so this paragraph says uniquely, we've received a grant to help pre-formation and early stage small businesses access a minimum of $250,000 to start or grow a business. Our approach is legal, compliant, and risk-free to create a fundable business. So we're giving you the words on the page, excuse me, the words on the page to help them understand what we're trying to accomplish here. And sorry, all this is highlighted. I don't know why that won't go away. And to compare options. And so again, emphasizing the fact we realize that you have options, right? Because we want them to stop thinking about, oh, I don't know if I can get funding, to how am I going to get funding? I am going to get funding to start or grow a business. Oh, too much. I absolutely am going to get it. The question is how. So what you and I want to do is get their mindset. Yeah, you can get funding. Absolutely. You deserve it. You need it. You want it. You'll get it. The question is, what resource are you going to use to become fundable? And let's compare options. See that mindset? So then we say the business startup program is designed to assist in improving the fundability of the business. So again, this is a truthful statement, but I don't think it's what clients really want to hear, right? They just simply want to sign up. Well, they don't want to sign up. They just want funding. But what's the problem? They're not fundable. And that's what we do legally, ethically, and without risk. This paragraph I really like when they added, and I forget who provided this content to us. I think it was Mr. Kearns who's on, but I forget who it was that gave us this. But really clarifying, we're talking about the fundability of the business, which is underlined. We're not sitting here talking about personal qualifications. We're not sitting here talking about personal credit. We're talking about building a fundable business. And I think that's refreshing. I think people kind of get beat up over how well they've managed their personal credit and their personal finances. We're flipping the page and going on to a different conversation. We're talking about their business themselves. And then the call to action, of course, is to contact you, not us, but contact you. And that's why you'd want to edit the bottom. So let me pause and ask, what feedback do any of you have on how it's titled or on the verbiage on the left? We'll get over here to the grid, but let's stop. If you can and ask for your feedback. So you can type it into the Q&A. It's question and answer function of Zoom. It's kind of like a chat box. So I'm looking for feedback from any of you in terms of kind of the strategy and the structure. So let's see. Andrew, and we've got 426 of you, so I can't say 426 names very quickly. But Andrew, what's your feedback on this structure, this approach, this psychology? Anthony, what are your thoughts? Bernard, Bevan, Charles, Craig, David, got multiple Erics, Erica, Ernest, Ernestina, Felicia, Gilbert, Iantha, Jeanette, looking for feedback. Does this make sense? Do you think that this could be a useful tool for you, like it is many others, in being able to guide the conversation that you're having with your prospects? So looking for some feedback. Can you let me know what your thoughts are in the Q&A? All right, and so let's move on to drill into what's on the actual comparison component, why these things are here, and how to properly leverage them. So, to no surprise, we're identifying the elements of what you and I are providing, because that's what we provide, and it's also setting kind of a high bar, isn't it? Because as the prospective client, if they do even have some other options, which we're going to help them map out, it's going to kind of force them to meet the criteria that we're looking for. I'll go back to the Deloitte example. So when I worked for Deloitte, shortly after graduate school, as I've stated before, we would develop an RFP, a request for proposal. And then any of those big insurance companies that I mentioned, like Aetna, United Healthcare, Cigna, Blue Cross, all those, they would have to answer the questions that we were asking. So if you can control the questions that the client's answering, then that puts you at tremendous advantage. So we're here to be able to control the elements that we're talking about. Now, frankly, if the client has some other, or the prospective client has some other option that has some other element that we haven't identified, then we can discuss it with them. But normally, there are no other options, so we're able to focus on these topics. So working from the top down. Now, this is an editable Word document I'm sharing with you. So if you wanted to make changes to it, you could make changes to it. You could add different criteria or reorder them if you want. I don't think that we developed it where there's some great strategy of the order of what's listed, but it should be good to go. But my point is, it's editable Word document. You're going out into your branding. So if you wanted to change any of these criteria or reorder it, you could. All right. We've got a question from David. So David's one of two Davids. David's asking if you're working with a Votech school or an affinity partner, church chamber, how do you mix it in? And that's a great point. Yeah, so you'd want to put their logo at the top. So what we've been talking about is working with distribution partners, working with influencers like Votech schools, massage therapy schools, truck driving schools, or even chambers, churches, so forth. So certainly co-branding with those organizations are remarkably effective because their membership, their graduates, their students, whatever their relationship is with the entrepreneurs, they know them better than they know you. So that's a great point. Putting either your logo and the logo of your partner, if you will, or just putting the logo of your partner. Okay, so moving on down. So what's the first item that we bring to the prospective client's attention? Pay for results, not promises. I've found that many people have been burnt before. They've tried things that didn't work. They have lost money. They've had unmet expectations. Some of them have been flat out scammed. So many people will come to you overly cautious, but that's okay. I mean, they need to look out for their own well-being. We all should, of course. So what we're offering, as you know, we've had separate trainings on, is the buy now, pay later option, which is great. So instead of them having to pay, well, let's go to the dollars and cents first. So you and I know that the startup program is $5,000. The grant allocation reduces that in half. So the participant pays you, the branch, $2,500. You keep half, send us half, we do all the work. So it's great. You've got a 50% profit margin and we do all the work. So really, you don't have any expenses other than whatever you incur to develop the client. With that being said, you can offer, it's up to you, the buy now, pay later option, whereby instead of the client paying the $2,500 up front, they pay just $500 to you. $500. You keep half, send us half, we do all the work, and then we're using the buy now, pay later lender. So that's very attractive to a lot of people. So some of you are getting that and leveraging that. I don't think leading with that makes sense because everyone cares about what's in it for them. So what do they want? They want money to start or grow a business, and they'd rather not pay anything, of course, right? If we could all go to a restaurant, any restaurant we wanted, and eat for free, that'd be even better than paying for it. But that's too good to be true. But once you have educated them that we can assist them in accomplishing this, then it's going to come down to money at some point, right? They need to understand that even though there is a grant allocation, there is a cost. And the cost can be reduced, or upfront cost can be reduced by using the buy now, pay later option. We restructured that, as we talked about recently, and now the buy now, pay later is 0%. It was 9.9. You just can't beat it, right? Buy now, pay later, 0%. But that does not mean free. It's not a free program. And that does not mean that there's no upfront cost. They're going to pay you a $500 deposit. Now, some people will say, well, if it's you've got to pay anything up front, it's a scam. Well, think about the last time you went on American Airlines website, aa.com, and you booked a flight. We just booked our spring break flights. That's why I use that as an example. I'm not flying for a couple months, but you know what? They charged me for those 3 first class tickets. I think it was like $4,000 for the round trip tickets. That's a scam. Why is American Airlines charging me for these tickets? I'm not even going to fly for a couple months. That's a scam. No, it's not a scam. In many cases, you pay when you enroll, when you contract. So American Airlines has committed to fly my wife and my son and myself for spring break in a couple months, but we paid now. Paid it already. So in our program, we're making a bunch of promises. We always have a written contract, so there's no vagueness. But with that, yeah, you pay when you enroll. Now, again, there's the grant allocation, or we could do the buy now, pay later. But yeah, there is a cost. Usually people that push back on the $500 are broke. And it's very hard to meet broke people's expectations. So if they don't have $500 or can't come up with $500, then they may not be the best prospect. Maybe you need to hire them to be one of your sales reps, let them earn some income so they're ready. And I know that sounds insensitive, but are you really ready to go start and build a fundable business if you're stone cold broke? Probably not. But you offer the ability to create daily deposits. And we'll talk about that in a few minutes on the opportunity fund. So they can resolve being broke, but if they don't have $500, they're probably not a real good prospect. Bevan asked, is the buy now, pay later available globally or just nationally? It's available globally to anyone in the world. It's not US specific. Okay, so that's the first point of comparison. So if you're going through this with them, you want to explain what your proposition is, which is here, and it's check marked, and then based upon their other options they're looking at, determine, does that have a check mark or an X? Now, again, a lot of people won't even have any other options. That makes yours even more valuable. It's kind of like you or nothing. But if they come back like we used an example earlier, oh yeah, Bevan, I'm talking to some other group. Great. With them, ask them, do they charge you for promises or do they charge you for results? Now, of course, you want to emphasize we have a written agreement. You as the branch have a written agreement with them. So there's 100% certainty. There is no risk that we will do everything that we've promised to do in that contract. If they're talking to someone else, do they have the contract? Ask them to send the contract over to you, and you can help them map this out. So again, if you complete this exercise with a prospective client and they have a better offer on the table, encourage them to take that. But I don't think it's going to happen. If it does happen, it'll be like 1 out of 1,000,000 times. Next point of comparison is the team. It's interesting to me how some people take financial advice from broke people. It's interesting to me how some people get financial advice from those who are not successful, not experienced. And so you need to let them know that if they enroll in your program, that your team, which is our corporate office team, if you will, we work for you, we're like your vendor, but the team that's going to be working with your clients, all of us are either attorneys or paralegals. All of us have either worked for the SBA, volunteered with the SBDC, and or work in a bank environment. All of us have graduate degrees from obviously credible universities. All of us had to go through a credit check, a criminal check. So you're bringing to them a qualified team. And so if they're looking at some other options, ask, hey, tell us a little bit about the background of the team that you're going to be working with this other option, because I don't think it's going to match the team that you bring to the table for them. Now, again, this is private label, white label branch. So you should be going out under your branding, but you're just letting them know that you have a team, an experienced team, a qualified team that's going to be working with them. Okay, next, in your resource that you're making available to them, you assist them in building their business credit, improving their business credit. We're going to actually build out their credit profile like Dun & Bradstreet Experian Business. And so that's very valuable, and that's included. So if they say to you that they've got other options, then find out what that option is. And we're going down the rows here and ask, well, is that included with option B that you're looking at? Which it may be. There's others in that space. Here, what we're addressing is the fact to have a fundable business, we need to have a unique commercial address, and we, of course, need to have an entity that's formed in good standing with the Secretary of State. That may or may not be valuable to them, right? Because they may already have that. I respect that. But you could use this to ask, hey, tell me a little bit about your business. Have you already formed it? Is it in good standing? And then after that, then back into, oh, tell me about the address that's on record. Is it a true, unique commercial address? So this is a really strong value proposition if they don't have it. But if they already do have it, then of course, the check mark still remains, but it may not be important to them. Next, you provide each participant $10,000. It's like we're paying them to participate, right? Because they only had, if they're using the buy now, pay later, they're only into this $500 out of pocket. And here we're providing them $10,000 in quick cash. Why do we do that? That provides collateral on their balance sheet. We're going to help them create a balance sheet, which I know is not laid out here, but we're going to help them create a balance sheet, which is needed for funding applications, and make sure that they have these assets on the balance sheet for collateral. And then we're going to turn around and help them liquidate, if they want us to, those receivables to turn it into cash. So ask them, okay, as you're looking at other options, let me make this smaller so it's easier. As you're looking at other options, is that included? I bet it's not. I bet it's not. Then the Opportunity Fund. The Opportunity Fund is extraordinarily beneficial. Maybe they appreciate it, maybe not. But what it does, it's designed to provide those daily deposits into their business account. Because in most cases, we're starting a new business. However, they may already have the foundation built. But regardless, you and I understand that businesses that are insolvent are harder to fund than those that are solvent. And with the Opportunity Fund, it's set up to provide daily deposits. Well, why would they want daily deposits into their business account? Makes their bank's rating look stronger financials, specifically their income statement, otherwise known as P&L, profit and loss. And then it also provides them working capital, so they have money. Many of you are like insurance agents. I shouldn't say like. Many of you are insurance agents. Well, wouldn't it be great if your client had funding coming in so they could buy asset protection from you? A number of you are CPAs. Wouldn't it be great if the clients had the funding to be able to pay for your accounting services? A number of you are business coaches, business consultants. Wouldn't it be great if your clients had the money to be able to pay for other services, other resources that you offer? I would think so. And then we get to the last item, free trade lines. This is huge because we don't sell trade lines. So we help them add real primary trade lines. Primary means that they can use it and build out their credit profiles, such as Dun and Bradstreet. And again, that's included for free. So let me stop rattling and we'll close out with any questions you have. What we've attempted to accomplish today is to either introduce or reintroduce to each of you this comparison sheet. And it's a really effective resource that you would edit with your information, put your logo up here, your contact information down here, and use this to guide your conversation with individuals. This doesn't replace the power or the impact of teaching the full 10 mistake PowerPoint. But there's just not always an opportunity to do a formal presentation. This is something that you could email them to look at, something you could text them to look at, something you could hand them if you wish. It is not designed to be just send it out and hope it makes sense to them. I think it rarely will. Not that it's complicated, but it's meant to be a visual to guide your conversation, have interaction. I think, and I say this very respectfully, I think you're mistaken if you think that as a branch office, you can generate enrollments, generate income if you don't, either yourself or someone on your team, interact with people. They're going to want to talk to someone. In most cases, they're going to want to talk to someone to make sure that you're real and to understand. And so even though this is written at a fairly low level, anyone should be able to read it and assimilate it. It will not be very effective if you think, oh, I'll just send this out and people will sign up. Some may, but it probably not many. But if you use this as an active guide that they can visually see when you're visiting with them, whether it be telephonically or Zoom or in person, then it's very effective. But when it gets to finance and money, you really need to plan to interact with people. You need to speak with them or have someone in your team. Many of you are too busy to do it yourself, so we can help you build a team. Lastly, so I guess the biggest criticism of this, and it looks like that's what Gilbert's bringing up, is, well, this is going to take time, isn't it? Yeah, Gilbert, it is going to take time. To have this conversation, figure you'll probably spend 15 or 20 minutes with your prospect. But Gilbert, you're making $1,250 up front. As Thomas Kearns like to say, every day's payday. You're getting paid up front for educating them and using this to get them enrolled. Plus, if you're adding a performance fee on the back end in 30 to 60 days when they're funded, now you're making 5, 10, 15%, whatever performance fee. So let's say that they raise 250,000, we'll just say in 60 days, and your performance fee is 10%, just for simple math. So not only did you make Gilbert, did you not only make $1,250 today for having a 15 to 20 minute conversation with them, which isn't bad, but now you've got 10% of this in that example, 25,000 coming to you in around 60 days. So it's adult money. And I forget who brought up that term the first time. I think it might have been Larry. It's adult money, right? So even if it took you an hour to walk someone through this, to make $1,000 an hour is more than what most people make. Some people don't make that in a week, and you'll make it most cases by taking people through this. So what objections, what concerns do you think that you might have if you were to use this and use it as an instrument for your prospects to visually see and to guide your conversation? Who has a concern about it? That's what I'm asking. We got a bunch of you on here. Reginald, what do you think is the downside of this? Let me word it that way. Samantha, what do you think is the downside of this? Terrence, what do you think is the downside of using this? Other than the fact that it is meant to be an instrument that you talk to the prospect about. It's not, I'll just send it out and this is the magic formula that a million people will sign up and I'll have to not talk to them. I don't think that's realistic. But again, we've said a couple times, it's okay if you don't have time or the interest or the inclination to talk to prospects. You're the CEO of your branch, the executive director, the president, whatever title you want to use. It's okay to have other people go do the work, right? There's not many businesses that one person does everything. You can own the branch. You can run the branch. You can keep the profits from the branch. But no, you don't have to do the work. All right, Samantha brings up a good point. And so that's why we provide, I didn't bring up her point, but I'm getting to it. This is provided to each of you in 100% editable format, Microsoft Word. If you don't have Word, I guess you have to get Word, but regardless of that, you can edit this. So if you feel that something isn't accurately described, change it. If there's something on here that you don't like, remove it. If there's something that you think's missing, add it, right? We've done the work to bring it to this point, but you have the ability to modify it as you would like. But as Terrence just said, one of our CPA partners, this is meant to be an instrument to go along with a live conversation. Those are his words, and I'd agree. You need to have a conversation. It's okay to be over on the phone, but I would email it to them or I'd text it to them, and then I'd make sure that they have it, and hopefully they're looking at it while you're visiting with them because it provides them a visual reference. And push them a little bit, not to enroll, but if you're going to push them for anything, ask them, what other options are you considering? Because you told me, Joe or Sammy, at the beginning of our call, you do need money to start or grow a business, right? Otherwise, I wouldn't have spent the last 15 or 20 minutes with you. So I know what the problem is. You need money to start or grow a business. I know, Joe or Sammy, you're going to get it. You got to decide, though, what method, what resource you're going to use. Like I was talking about my spring break trip. I'm going to Vegas, but I had to decide which airline I wanted to book with, but I'm going to Vegas. These clients, they're going to get the funding that they want and they need. You need them to realize that. They'll get it, but they've got to decide how they're going to qualify. And then by using this, you can very easily determine, do they have other options? And if they don't, it's okay. It's not like you want to force them to go Google and try to find some other resource. It's not that. But it's powerful in itself if they don't have any other options. But if they do, especially if they try to bullshit you and say, well, yeah, I'm talking to someone else about someone that does something similar, or worse yet, yeah, I'm talking to someone else that does the same thing. Oh, really? Well, let's give me 5 minutes and let's go through how our grant program works. And let's go ahead and fill this out for the other resource that you're speaking with and find out how many check marks they get. And I forget who did this. I think it was Rosalind, but I'm not sure. What she did is she created a scoring system. So each check mark is a point. So you got 1 point, 2 points, 3 points, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we got a maximum score of 7. So our program gives a score of 7. So if they do have other options, which they probably don't, help them go through this, add check marks or X's. And for the check marks they have, calculate the score at the end and see if it's higher or equal to 7, then they've got a viable other option. But I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think they're going to have any other options. And even if they do, I don't think most of these check marks are going to be marked. So it becomes almost illogical for them to not try this. We've talked about the money back guarantee. There's no risk to them. Why wouldn't they do this? All right, well, I've talked your ear off, and I apologize, but if you don't have this, email us and let us know. We want you to consider using this tool. You can change what you want. If you're a pessimist or an antagonist, or you feel like this is done all wrong, then spruce it all up. one of the benefits you have of being a branch, what we call private label or white label, is you can change anything you want because it doesn't have our information. If it had our information on it, for instance, if you left this on here, we would have to approve any changes at all. But instead, we're not a franchise model. You go out under your branding, so you can change whatever you want because it's what you're promising in your proposition. It's not committing us to something that we didn't know or agree to. All right, with that being said, we'll see you back Monday morning. Let us know what we can do to help you. Have a good day. Bye.